recording is on.
Okay, so the first talker there was Tom, and this is Scott. We've got two table topics. The first one is O1 Pro and the coming O3 release, and the second is the CRM. You have the conch.
Okay. This is not really tabling because I don't know what it is, so maybe you can tell me later, but the issue is that after 1 month steady, so in about 5 days time, we would have been using O1 Pro all day, every day, hitting it with what in the API would have cost around about $100 worth of credits every day. So I don't know how OpenAI did post a loss, right? So we would have burned them about $3,000 worth of credits at API prices, and we can't. There's some mistake in Maxwell. We can't find error in O1 Pro. We've found one tiny hallucination in a very mundane, boring job to basically hand transcribe an XML document. No logical errors, no I said do this but you didn't do that, no unjustifiable faults. The only real thing that I've got out of all of this is like, well, it seems to struggle to ignore information. Like when you pass it information in the context window, it doesn't selectively ignore it. You have to do that, which would indicate the need for some sort of initial pass to get rid of that irrelevant information before feeding in the main question. Anyway, the problem really is that I don't think that we have a handle on O1 Pro, which means that we're not using it to its maximum. We don't know its faults, and we got O3 coming, which is even better. And so in this machine, all the rough edges have been knocked off by thousands, maybe even millions of people giving feedback and usage. And so the faults that are in there, or the shortcomings, are not obvious to us anymore as people, because everything that a human could recognize has faulted. And so I am disturbed that in this model we can't find issue with it, and we know that it's getting better in O3. So what's a girl to do, basically?
My thoughts are very similar. The points where I need to prompt again, speak to your point on it seems to be able to hold everything in its head.
Yep.
And you say, no, can you focus on that? But when you say that, it just does. Without error. The results, I'm feeling like it when I'm using Pro, that I'm the bottleneck, because it's like the stuff coming out.
Yeah, we're the weakest part now. We're the weakest part.
O3 is likely just, well, it depends. We don't really know what O3 is going to do, but
well, it ain't worse.
See again?
It won't be worse.
No, it won't be. I imagine it is probably going to get to the point where it's quite difficult to see whether the output is correct or not, because it is sophisticated and exact. Doesn't hallucinate.
All right, this, pardon me, sir, but this feels like a repetition of the points that I had made. The purpose of moving forwards is to table ideas on what we could do about it. One idea comes to mind. I think that we're in an artificial bubble because we don't have O1 Pro in the API, so we can't use O1 Pro against itself to evaluate it. And so it might do us some good to have some strategies in place by which we could use O1 to probe O1. Now we already have O1 in the API, but we don't have our platform surface up to use it yet because we've been so busied with using O1 Pro to do other stuff. Maybe it signals some need for some priority onto getting our platform back up so that we can start doing O1 versus O1 type programs where it will grind on itself to find its own errors. Over to you.
Yes, I agree. I've actually been doing that manually by giving the same context and input and then the output from one tab from O1 Pro to another and getting it to critique it.
Right.
But typically it just comes back saying, yeah, it might reword it, but it seems to pretty much agree with itself. So it's, for all intents and purposes, consistent between tabs that don't know about each other.
Right. What else have we got? What other strategies can we apply? Like, I feel like we're about to miss a trick if for all our labor and all our awareness of this situation, we aren't able to put the thing in a box that sort of signals a failure.
Pause. All right, there seems to be a couple general strategies that neither of which are particularly good. The first one is we rely on we don't pace ourselves against O1, we pace ourselves against the other users of O1 in order to generate value. So we're not actually trying to master the bot, we're trying to master overachieve versus other people using the bot. The second thing is, again, as equally weak, in that the usage of it we were mentioning seems to be becoming more of an art now. We haven't expressed those heuristics. They're hard to express. This is not really, it doesn't feel like engineering. It feels like manipulating and melding and so forth. But what we want to do is to progress our thinking and not keep going back through a cycle of doing the same things. And so maybe a record of heuristics would be a
Probably, maybe we need to meet up and just fucking sit in a cave for a couple of weeks and just rip to shreds what O3 is, because I'm quite worried. Like, I'm not. O1 Pro is better than me, and what is my job if a machine is better than me? Surely it's to steer the machine effectively, and if I can't, like, do I need to know the faults of a machine to be able to control it? Is it a problem that I can't make the machine sweat, or that I can't hit its limits? Like, you know, when you got a server and you write a program, you're like, haha, watch this, and you make it like crap itself, and then you feel like you're in control.
No, absolutely not. I mean, there's no need to sweat the thing because it doesn't really sweat.
Sir, we are no longer frontier if we are not sweating the machine. We have become consumers in the middle of the band. Where is the frontier if it is not where we are?
I think I know what you mean by sweating the machine. You look at, you've got 4 GPUs and they're all maxing out and going, look at that. I think that is a fallacy. That isn't necessarily good work. I think we could consider, for example, workflows that minimize the number of prompts to get exactly the same high quality output, we could look at consistency and what prompts that we need to give. But most of all, I think we need to sharpen up our own fallacious thinking that when something comes out wrong, it's to do with the model. It's not to do with the model. It's never to do with the model. It's to do with what we've told the model to do.
Where does that leave us, though? Like,
leaves us in a very uncomfortable position that that's what you get. I mean, I'm not going to pick up her ball and walk off the field.
no, like we're stuck.
Cool.
There is no other field than here, right? But if we can't use these models to their fullest potential, we are no longer at the frontier. Now, does that mean we should just shut the hell up and be happy with the magical alien intelligence that landed from outer space with no effort from us? That's one way to look at it. I don't like that. Where's the frontier?
Maybe we're not giving it a hard enough question. If you're talking about sweating O1 Pro even to generate code, it goes, yeah, there you go. It's not being sweated. You sweat it by giving it harder problems.
What are harder problems?
Well, the hardest problem we've got at the moment is to consider attribution, which we've never been able to tackle.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now you're talking. That's a gnarly one.
Yeah.
How would you ask O3 to solve attribution? Oh, yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay, so to prepare for O3, we need to be ready to hit it with questions about attribution, right? Because if we can use O1 Pro to get everything lined up, if we don't waste our time, if we just make the rather rude assumption that O1 Pro can't do attribution for us, but we can lay out the spec and we can lay out the formulas, the mathematical formulas of what we want it to do, and then we can start generating evals, really, to be able to measure the performance of any model in the realm of attribution calculations. Yeah?
Yes. And I don't think, with all due humility and respect to your good self, sir, I don't think
here we go.
Either one of us alone can do this. I think we do need to huddle and talk to all three, because having two monkey brains is much better than one. And we're up against a tool that outpaces us easily. We need to get much sharper with our thinking if we're going to keep up.
Okay, so we need the commander operating, otherwise we're just going to be like flailing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And Pro's doing a great job of that. I reckon we've probably got another day, maybe push 2. You saw the output from the transcript yesterday.
Yeah. And then we jack in O3 to be the commander. It prioritizes what we're doing. We then use that to build out pieces of the platform that can allow us to use O3 against itself to measure itself and push itself. And we strive towards generating the formulas and the test information for what attribution looks like and impact crystals and all those kinds of like, man, what's even the word for those kinds of problems? They're like, you can't do that as a person.
Yes, and we'll be introducing attribution has always been at its heart about aligning incentives, which is difficult.
Shall we watch the video of O2 again? O3 again? Or no? Is that a waste of time? Bad use of time?
No, it's not. Let's do it because I'd like to hear your narrative as we speak over it.
Okay, is this a valid thing for me to be worrying about, and therefore us to be worrying about, is how to prepare for the arrival of O3, or should we just, what they say about the best way to have a car accident is to be unawares, and then it just hits you?
It seems to me that it is a good use of time to learn how to use a new tool.
Okay, all right, I'll play the thing.
Yeah.
Good morning. We have an exciting one for you today. We started this 12-day event 12 days ago with the launch of O1, our first reasoning model. It's been amazing to see what people are doing with that, and very gratifying to hear how much people like it. We view this as sort of the beginning of the next phase of AI, where you can use these models to do increasingly complex tasks that require a lot of. And so for the last day of this event, we thought it would be fun to go from one frontier model to our next frontier model. Today, that next frontier model, which you would think logically maybe should be called O2, but out of respect to our friends at Telefonica, and in the grand tradition of OpenAI being really, truly bad names, it's going to be called O3. Actually, we're not going to launch. We're going to announce two models today, O3 and O3 Mini. O3 is a very, very smart model. O3 Mini is an incredibly smart model, but really good at performance and cost. So to get the bad news out of the way first, we're not going to publicly launch these today. The good news is we're going to make them available for public safety testing starting today. You can apply, and we'll talk about that later. We've taken safety testing seriously as our models get more and more capable. And at this new level of capability, we want to try adding a new part of our safety testing procedure, which is to allow public access for researchers that want to help us test. We'll talk more at the end about when these models, when we expect to make these models generally available. But we're so excited to show you what they can do, to talk about the performance. We've got a little surprise. We'll show you some demos. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Mark to talk about it.
Cool. Thank you so much, Sam. So my name is Mark. I lead research at OpenAI, and I want to talk a little bit about O3's capabilities. Now, O3 is a really strong model at very hard technical benchmarks. And I want to start with coding benchmarks. You can bring those up. So on software style benchmarks, we have SweBench Verified, which is a benchmark consisting of real-world software tasks. We're seeing that O3 performs at about 71.7% accuracy, which is over 20% better than our O1 models. Now, this really signifies that we're really climbing the frontier of utility as well. On competition code, we see that O1 achieves an ELO on this contest coding site called Codeforce is about 1891. At our most aggressive.
I hope you don't find it too annoying if I stop and just interject with...
No, please do.
All right. Signal to me if you want to pause it as well. So the thing I want to highlight here is this light blue area, which is the variation between this benchmark. So this is an interesting benchmark in that it gives you it's like best of 10 or something like that. Like you can try multiple times to submit something. And so it would indicate to me that O3 is still a probabilistic machine. And I have no foundation for it, but I imagine that AI will be probabilistic for some time into the future. Being probabilistic means that it will give you different answers when you run at different times, and the how well calibrated a model is, it would be measured by how often it gets the same answer for you, even if you twiddled the input to be slightly different and did a different run. And so having the basic tools in our workbench to do these 10 parallel calls, intelligence comes back, best of the bunch is chosen. Those seem like they're going to be useful in the face of O3 as well. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. Pause, please. It seems that one of the things that we can contribute to the use of the model is in understanding how to break up the knowledge into chunks that it can clearly understand, and we've been kind of going down that way with folders, but the concept, pause. When I was doing my undergrad in AI, one of the things was in getting knowledge structures right, and there was a thing called moats, and a moat being an assertion. And each assertion can be drilled at different layers. You can check for the correctness of an assertion by itself. You can bring in disparate assertions and look for fallacies and contradictions, and you can bring in consistency on kind of vertical set of assertions, for example, in the CRM. Maybe the skill is, and I'm very unsure of this, which is why I'm hesitating, but maybe the skill is in understanding how to feed the beast the right stuff, and have it generate moats. Moats being essentially logical assertions. This is true. That is true.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think that being able to generate assertions that are from your own personal context, like your personal, well-tuned, well-managed, ground down, continually revisited, relinked, you go to bed and then you wake up and it's been improved by these models, your own personal set of truths is what's going to be the thing that you need. You can't drive these machines without a deep knowledge base of your personal truths, some of which you'll share with other people. And so our job really should be to build the platform upon which you can place, store, share, and grind, refine, just the place to put your contextual knowledge so that these machines know you and give you the answer you wanted every time, which is different to the right answer, right? Because right and what you want, I think we've gone well past right, and now we're in the realm of yes, but I wanted it to say blah blah blah.
Yes, I agree. And the discipline of that is, as humans, we can easily fall into fallacies. Selection fallacy, for example, where because we thought something before.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Pardon
oops.
me. That seems obvious.
Yep. Good. So you know the idea that the human mind is going to have more fallacies than the model. The model is never going to have a fallacy. It appears not to hallucinate.
Correct.
And so the skill you were mentioning there is to give it a domain or context, which is based on what you want it to do, knowing fine well that it's relatively easy to get it to do exactly what you said it would do, but
so that sounds like what I just said.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
But the point being, to go back to the other thing, what's a girl to do? It's to get really sharp on the knowledge structure. And there may be papers that we can go back to from the late 70s, early 80s that did a lot of thought about this when it wasn't this easy.
I revile against that. I do not think that that is a good path. I think the best path is that O3 will be able to tell us, just like O1 Pro can figure out what these knowledge structures are. I think that the original arts in that subject, people have been working on that for nigh on 50 years now. and they haven't really got that far. I'd say that all of that can just be shortcut with O3. I think the key, or the drive, the thrust that we should be pursuing is to make the induction of everyone's contextual truths ambient. And so just like we are really trying to do ambient intelligence by having the bot interpret our transcripts and pull out the intelligence within it, squeeze out the fallacies, reconcile against it, us for clarity, all that. We're willing to make those sacrifices and changes of behavior, but we need to make the platform for people who aren't willing to do that and who just want to simply put a puck down on a table and just record random stuff that they're saying at a coffee shop, just like the Omni device does, and then have a good way to pull in all that loose ambient information and then long grind it in batch to just extract out the background things that the person didn't even say directly, but they implied by going near it 100 times. End.
Pause. So clarification for my own benefit. So what you were just saying there is we have in these meetings had to adopt a certain style in order to bend to the benefits of using O1 Pro as Commander.
Correct.
Most people will not. And so there's work to be done about how to get a random person to not have to change their behavior because the model simply deals with it. And what's the architecture and knowledge structure around that?
Secondly, though, also the knowledge structure itself. Like, we will need to build our own one first. You can see us poking at it. That's what we're trying to do with the reasoning domains, with the transcripts, with the commander. We will need to build our own one first. And so I ask you, is it not of utmost importance to have our own fact pool that we use as context that we have started making here? But I would say to you that as O3 becomes more powerful than anything we've seen before, having that fact pool is the only thing that's going to make that machine do what you want, is to be able to give it all the context it's ever going to need to answer you in the way that you want, with relevance, with your background information intact.
I wholeheartedly agree. By fact pool, I assume you mean a set of assertions.
Yeah.
Which are simply there.
Yeah.
I think
I should use the word reasoning domain. Your reasoning, everyone needs reasoning domains so that they make sense when they talk, so that the bot knows the background, all that.
Yes, and that we have been poking at it and making some progress. And you're quite right, O3 is probably going to accelerate our progress in creating our own knowledge domain structure. But that seems to be the last holdout.
So therefore, the action would be to set down that the construction of that system as an essential component that, again, is a high priority, because that's all that we've got left, right? Like, that's almost like that's the purpose of the Dreamcatcher platform, is to be left with this artifact, which is your well-reasoned, well-reconciled knowledge pool, that even if you had O57, the greatest AI ever, it still wouldn't be able to work for you unless you gave it access to that to the reasoning domain, so that it knows what you want, what you're talking about.
Agreed.
Now, I'd just like to take a side moment here to mention something. I don't know if you ever watched the series Westworld.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, one of your favorites, right? And so they reckon, though, that they could actually extract out everything that there was about a person into a surprisingly small thing. Like it was like 10,000 books or something like that. Like it was not an unlimited amount of information. And I would say to you, the same is true for the reasoning domains required to make a bot fully be what you want in a way that you couldn't tell, in a way that you couldn't imagine how it could be better. I think that your reasoning domains, whilst they seem big because they can't fit in your head, in terms of computed data, I'd be surprised if it's more than a gigabyte of text. I'd be surprised if it was more than 100 megabytes of text. I think that's all you need.
I would agree with the first part. I don't think that's all you need because someone's conceptual context is dynamic and changing the knowledge domain in a way that
Oh
you
yes, I
don't
was yes
end up
yes
in
I was
weirdness.
I was simply meaning that sure the data is changing daily, constantly, as well as externally from things that occur, but I was simply meaning the size of it is maybe not as big as one might assume.
My hunch is you're right to the 80% mark.
All right, okay, so that's that. What's next?
Shall we continue watching the
Sure.
video because there's some interesting benchmarks towards the end.
High test time compute settings, we're able to achieve almost like a 27/27 ELO here.
So Mark was a competitive programmer, actually still coaches.
Yep. So when they say high test time compute, that's part of a lot of what we're getting out of O1 Pro is the high reasoning effort. So O3 Pro will probably be Christ almighty expensive, but it will do a similar thing, I think.
Yeah.
Competitive programming. Very, very good. What is your?
I think my best at a comparable site was about 2,500.
That's tough.
Well, I will say, our chief scientist, this is also better than our chief scientist Jakob's score.
I think there's one guy at OpenAI who's still like a 3,000 something.
Yeah,
It's a few more months to enjoy.
Hopefully we have a couple of months to enjoy there. Great.
I mean, this model is incredible at programming.
Yeah, and not just programming, but also mathematics. So we see that on competition math benchmarks, just like competitive programming, we achieve very, very strong scores. So O3 gets about 96.7% accuracy versus an O1 performance of 83.3% on the AMI.
What's your best AMI score?
I'll pause on that one. And just an interesting thing that all these benchmarks that they've been improving on, they're all logical and mathematical, or to do with language. It's not as nuanced as what people do.
Sorry, I don't understand what people do.
Well, people are not. You couldn't benchmark a person. You could try, but it's a fallacy to think that you're actually going to be able to find out whether.
And what's the point of that?
It's just a thought that I wanted to record. Sure, they're getting closer and closer, and you're finding this already, to perfection in code, perfection in mathematics, PhD level physics. But all these domains that they're looking at are similarly devolved into very well reasoned structures. It's a comment, and I read this actually. This
Hang on, stop.
process.
Stop. What further action do you require for your comment?
No, this is just a
Okay.
comment.
Okay. Can I segue into this piece, because this is talking about maths and how we can see how O3 would impact this kind of work?
Mm-hmm.
This was getting it into math form, and I actually can't fault O1 Pro's performance in this area. The fear I'm having is that I don't know how to ask questions and know that I got the right answer in a way that I think would stress the model you know, like if we turn up and say, how should ambient attribution work? Well, like that's not enough of a question, and there'll be like a bunch of follow-ups, and like it's almost like we need to program it in a way that a human can go on a saga with O3. So you can start with being like, hey, I want to make ambient attribution, and it's like, well, you know, and it's not a conversation, it's a saga, because there's all these different paths, and you, over days, like basically what I'm saying is that one shot or couple of shot or half hour shot interactions with O3 are not going to be enough to stress it. You need like day long, week long sagas where you're like, because the human needs time to process, think, iterate, and respond. And it's so making a platform where you can start these sagas where like the top drop would be like, oh, I want to do ambient attribution, and it's like, well, option 1 2 3 4, this one, this one, this one. Oh no, backtrack, this one, this one, this one, this one. And as the human, I want to be able to guide multiple paths of reasoning for O3 to be grinding on, where some of them it will self-reason out, where it's like, oh, that's unviable because this long way down I found this problem, and therefore that's unviable. But these sagas and this ability to build using strategies, build on previous responses, but not all of the previous response, generate forks where there's parallel paths, well, like one of those storybooks where you read or you choose your own path through the story. Like, we need to make the platform, make the surface be able to let people saga with O3, or we'll never hit the limits, because you can't hit it in 1 or 2 shots or single chat conversations.
I agree with what you just said. I'd add to it that if our target is people who are not willing to spend as much time thinking about how to talk to the bot as we are, which is going to be most people, one way is to get the bot to do the thinking and ask questions, instead of what it's doing at the moment, which is it sits there waiting you to ask a question. So a prompt is a question or a direction or, information. It's passive. If O3 really is this good, maybe we should flip that and make it active and start asking you questions and ensuring that your thinking is filling in all these different paths of the Make Your Invention book, forks and merges, and at each point making sure that it is actually coherent.
Yep, that's one way that we can stress the model. I think that the key is to abandon the notion of being able to stress it in chat or with one prompt. We now need a way to have multiple long-running goes at stressing it. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I did this was this took me 3 hours to do, this single page here.
Sorry, can you give me
Sure.
actually 2 seconds? There's a knock at the door. I don't know
Sure.
what it is. Okay, back.
Alrighty. So this is, I know I'm blending a couple of roles here. I'm just, I am perturbed at the moment. So this formula was 3 hours of prompting back and forth as it told me things. None of them were wrong, but this was a render of what I was telling it, and I corrected it each time, and then in doing its corrections, its next render had an error. The errors weren't confounding or annoying. Like, it wasn't like it was erroring out on things that had already been not errored upon. You know, like, it was incrementally better each time, but it's almost like the issue that was coming out was that in my head I thought it was simple. When I tried to express it in maths, it took significantly longer because the details matter so much, because they impact each other and they make the arrangement of the formula quite difficult. Like, it's easy to add a simple change. Like, for example, one iteration I did, the MoneyWorks server has multiple database tables, and I wanted to treat each one differently. And so when I asked for those tables to be included in the formula explodes, and it takes like 3 pages and looks ugly. And so there's this weird back and forth to get a formula that's like neat, pretty, complete. You know, it's almost tasteful, I guess, a tasteful formula. And so this didn't stress O1 Pro, this stressed me. But now that I have this,
You know it's always going to be right.
and now all the things I'm generating from it, like, okay, lay out the project file structure, bang, lay out the README, bang, everything just flows without error. Now that I have this math equation that defines it, it's like it's now that I have this piece of understanding with O1 Pro, given that this is canon, everything else is just like so right. In comparison to yesterday, where you recall I was like complaining about, I'm like, oh, it's this and oh, it's that, and now I got this other theory on how to fix it, and you know, going round and round and round. But now that I have this formula, it's all just like no argument, just bang, here you go. Over to you.
You remember about roughly 6 months ago, I had an early inclination that assembly theory was the way of storing assertions that the bot can really get through. This looks a lot like assembly theory. Assembly theory is essentially, in maths, a bunch of laws that act on objects, and regardless of what they are.
Regardless,
yeah. It does not regard. It does not care what the what you're acting on. It can reduce a system into maths.
Yep.
And in the way that you've just done instinctively.
Yep. And
I think assembly theory has already covered this in great depth, and it might be useful to point the bot at assembly theory.
I argue no. I argue strong no. Strong no. Strong no, because the flop of the bot matters a lot. And I thought that I was onto something with the ASCII text format, but the bot does not prefer ASCII format. Its flop is LaTeX. And so to work with these tools, we definitely know that you must go with the flow of the bot. If the bot wants LaTeX, give it LaTeX.
Can I ask how you discovered that it preferred latex?
I asked it.
And it just said, actually, if you do it in latex, I'll be much happier.
Yeah.
Huh.
I asked it to list all the different types of math notation it knew about, and then I asked it to write some stuff in ASCII format, and it was clunky. And then I also recall that if you just ask it for math notation, it spits out latex. And so whatever it flops on is clearly its like its flop is actually far more telling about its internal structure than we give it credit for when we use that to assess humans. So when you're talking to a human and they naturally choose this way of thinking or this type of architecture or something like that says, something. But actually for a bot, it's incredibly telling. It's almost like for a human, you can change that. For the bot, you cannot change its flop. Like, its flop is there from billions and billions of calculations. Like, you're not altering that.
Just to be sure, and did you have to do any assessment, or did the bot say, actually, dude, I prefer latex? Did you have to assess it by running ASCII art through it?
Oh, I did several angles. I tested the ASCII angle, and now I present to you like 3 different angles of why latex is best. Additionally, the ChatGPT web interface doesn't parse or present ASCII text properly when it could. ASCII text, for whatever reason, doesn't have a big following online. So there's a lot of different angles that I can say to you. Like, popularity matters for these bots because that's what influenced their training data. And now when it comes to mathematics, assembly theory, cool. Any other theory, cool. But actually, the flop is what's important.
I thought about why it's training on the mass of people using things. People use things in a Darwinian sense, in that if it's too hard or too complex, it might be actually better, but it hasn't survived being presented to the training set in such large areas.
Yeah.
And so identifying the language that the bot has least friction on, assuming it is completely incorrect, then we should be using that. That's what you've discovered here. Is
the flop.
Finding out what its preference is.
The flop, yeah, because it doesn't matter how superior a formula is. If you go against the flop, you'll be fighting uphill all day long. Now, it would occur to me that because it's so good at math, it's as though they tried to train it to favor math in some way, but the way that they've trained it isn't on any given formula, which is how a program would work. It's not on a fixed formula like how a human would, pick up a favorite theory like assembly theory and then apply it everywhere and do that. It's not like that. It's almost like they managed to infer maths as opposed to tell it maths. Like they got it to,
yes,
and
there's various examples of that. But the interesting thing is where it's inferring it from, which is this Darwinian selection of.
No, I think you're getting that wrong again. I think you're thinking about it like it inferred it by reading it. I think it inferred it by, not by learning about it, but by training on it. And so there's no way to know what its understanding of math is, because it wasn't that. The end result is not written anywhere, because it's the averaged out shimmering image of all math ever.
Yes,
Yep.
I think you've misunderstood me. The point I'm saying is the reason it's got a preference at all has to do with the weight of the training data that has been given. If there is a more popular method of doing anything, there's going to be more training data, and it's going to
That's not the whole story. I think that's part of the story, but the actual correctness of what it's training on seems to matter as well. Like, there's a lot of false and wrong information out there. The bot doesn't seem to be faulted by that. Anyway, I would like to end this conversation because I don't feel like I'm adding more information with it.
Can I ask that we go back to the video?
Sure.
Specifically, you can fast forward to when they bring on the guy with the institute.
I did get a perfect score. All right, so I'm safe. Yeah. Really, what this signifies is that O3 often just misses one question whenever we test. Surprise for you guys. So I want to talk about the ARC benchmark at this point, but I would love to invite one of our friends, Greg, who is the president of the ARC Foundation, on to talk about this benchmark.
Wonderful. Sam and Mark, thank you very much for having us today.
Of course.
Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Camrad, and I'm the president of the ArcPrize Foundation. Now, ArcPrize is a nonprofit with a mission of being a North Star towards AGI through and during benchmarks. So our first benchmark, ARC-AGI, was developed in 2019 by Francois Cholet in his paper on the measure of intelligence. However, it has been unbeaten for 5 years. Now, in AI world, that's like, it feels like centuries is where it is. So the system that beats ARC-AGI is going to be an important milestone towards general intelligence. But I'm excited to say today that we have a new state-of-the-art score to announce. Before I get into that, though, I want to talk about what ARC-AGI is. So I would love to show you an example here. ARC-AGI is all about having input examples and output examples. Well, they're good. They're good? Okay. Input examples and output examples. Now, the goal is you want to understand the rule of the transformation and guess it on the output. So, Sam, what do you think is happening in here?
Probably putting a dark blue square in the empty space.
See, yes, that is exactly it. Now, that is really, it's easy for humans to intuitively guess what that is. It's actually surprisingly hard for AI to understand what's going on. So I want to show one more hard example here. Now, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. What do you think is going on in this task?
Okay, so you take each of these yellow squares, you count the number of colored kind of squares there, and you create a border of that list.
That is exactly it, and that's much quicker than most people, so congratulations on that. What's interesting, though, is AI has not been able to get this problem thus far, and even though that we verified that a panel of humans could actually do it. Now, the unique part about ARC-AGI is every task requires distinct skills. And what I mean by that is there won't be another task that you need to fill in the corners with blue squares. But we do that on purpose. And the reason why we do that is because we want to test the model's ability to learn new skills on the fly. We don't just want it to repeat what it's already memorized. That's
So for us to not continually be getting like beaten down by the waves or get stuck in the whitewash on the surf beach, we should actually understand this benchmark and say to ourselves, you know, if something scores higher and higher scores on here, first of all, how does that affect us? And second of all, I think we do need to pay attention to the arbitrage between people who can harness the next iteration in intelligence and that lag between the catch-up. Because if you and I are sitting here, you with, you know, your AI degree from 1980, whatever, and, you know, hours, years of time spent in these models day to day, if we're wondering how on earth can I harness that, how can I control it, then we can be assured that there's a range of other people and other use cases that haven't even been touched. And so we should be not only able to say what a steady state good use of high grade AI is, but also say what the best use of the knowledge, the gradient is, given that our stated mission is we want to sell that we want to sell shortening the gradient. We don't want to sell widening the gradient. We want to sell shortening it. And I just need a second. No, I'm sorry. Over to you.
I think we should, in a moment, play the video from this part. In this day 12, this was the part that really opened my eyes about where they're going. So if we're saying, how do we master O3, this is what they think they need to do in order to master O3 themselves.
Right. What I wanted to say was that the construction of the watchtower becomes critical, because if we have this new intelligence, we should be able to make something that looks like the Eye of Sauron that can scour around and parse more information than we can to identify these gradients in utility, to look for value in places that we don't have the intellect or the time or the anything to look, and it should be able to sweep it. And the reason why OpenAI's version of that will be different to ours is because of this internal context, the strategies, the reasoning domains that we assemble. Those things mean that the exact same model given to two teams is going to come down to the quality of the reasoning and the novelty, the strategies and the experiments and the how fast each team learned the nuances of the world they're in plus the model. Those things are what's going to make the difference, and that's what we need to concentrate on.
Yes, I agree. And the reason I'm highlighting this specifically is we've got O3, but O4 is inevitable. This is what they're going to be training O4 to excel on, these benchmarks.
Okay, shall I play?
Yeah.
That's the whole point here. Now, ArcAGI version 1 took 5 years to go from 0% to 5% with leading frontier models. However, today, I'm very excited to say that O3 has scored a new state-of-the-art score that we have verified. On low compute for O3, it has scored 75.7 on ArcAGI's semi-private holdout set. Now, this is extremely impressive.
Wait. So on ArcAGI, they're saying it was 5 years to go from 0 to 5%, and then we've got O1 Mini on 8%. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yep.
And then we've got O1 with low, medium, high compute coming in at 32%. So that's probably why we feel like, you know, compared to, I don't know where 4.0 places, probably I'd assume it's in 5% because otherwise they would have mentioned it. And then we've got O1 clocking in at 32, which is why it feels way faster, way smarter. But we're O3 low, 75%. Well, what's left in the benchmark? Like, that feels saturated. Like, the benchmark is, that's so much smarter.
The point I'm making in highlighting this part, because O2, O3, yeah, well, whatever. However, what we've got here is a bunch of benchmarks that they are trying to improve, and they're going from O1 high at 32%, and they're over doubling that to the low of O3. But this we need to understand, because if we understand the benchmarks, we understand what's coming down the road, what they're trying to optimize for.
Correct. However, this benchmark is now done. 87%. There's no point squabbling over the last, right? The last,
sure,
right? The last 12.5%. What does it matter? What does it matter? Who cares?
They address that in the next couple of minutes. So if you hit the play, he addresses that.
Okay, but they're gonna get that wrong for the first couple of times, right? Because that's just how it goes when you're like, oh, we need a new benchmark. Okay, and then it's gonna, they're gonna, yeah. Anyway.
because this is within the compute requirements that we have for our public leaderboard, and this is the new #1 entry on ArcAGI Pub. So congratulations
Thank
to
you
that.
so much. Yeah.
Now, as a capabilities demonstration, when we ask O3 to think longer and we actually ramp up to high compute, O3 was able to score 85.7% on the same hidden holdout set. This is especially important.
87.5.
Sorry, 87.5, yes. This is especially important because human performance is comparable at 85% threshold. So being above this is a major milestone. And we have never tested a system that has done this or any model that has done this beforehand. So this is new territory in the ArcAGI world. Congratulations with that.
Congratulations for making such a good benchmark.
Yeah. When I look at these scores, I realize I need to switch my worldview a little bit. I need to fix my AI intuitions about what AI can actually do and what it's capable of, especially in this O3 world. But the work also is not over yet, and these are still the early days of AI.
Can I interject? I'm interjecting a lot. You can tell me if you want me to just
No,
let it.
please do. This is very useful.
Okay.
I've watched this video.
So the key thing he says there is, I need to change my worldview. That is the knowledge gradient, and it's not a knowledge gradient through poverty, like I wish I was smarter but I'm not. It's a knowledge gradient from, there's an old saying, right? It's not the things that you don't know that get you. It's the things you know for sure that just ain't so. Right? You heard that one before?
I have, yeah.
So that's the thing that's happening with AI, and I'm spotting it. If I promise you, if you go in and talk to people and you have that in your mind that you're going to look for these things that are no longer true necessarily, you'll find it everywhere. I spoke to a guy the other day. I'm like, mate, we should start a stock exchange. And he goes, oh, mate, that's way too hard. And I was like, is it? And it's that kind of thing. It's like, you think it's hard because of how the world was before intelligence that surpassed humans arrived, which this benchmark, that's better than human. I already know that it's better at human at the things that I'm bad at as a human, like logic. So the benchmark's just like confirms what we've been feeling or experiencing with these tools. And so there will be a whole world of possibilities where, because of the compounding effects of difficulties, that are like, if you analyze why is it hard to start an exchange, well, there's this compliance, that compliance, then you got to get this thing, and then you need that thing, and then you need some software, and then you need this. All these things, if you can scrunch them down, they either can be made to disappear or they can be done by a machine. And so is that component hard to do anymore? And so in a world where everything just collapsed, what are the right things to do? What's the smart thing to do? Because some things are like chasing them because they're only there because of the way the old world was, and they will soon just disappear. What should we chase in the new world is the critical thing to answer.
I agree. Let's keep playing. I've got a few
So,
comments at the end of this
we
section.
need more enduring benchmarks like ArcAGI to help measure and guide progress. And I am excited to accelerate that progress, and I'm excited to partner with OpenAI next year to develop our next frontier benchmark.
Amazing. It's also a benchmark that we've been targeting, been on our mind for a very long time. So we're excited to work with you in the future.
Worth mentioning that we target and we think it's an awesome benchmark.
Yeah.
We didn't go do specific
do
work,
specific
this is
things,
just
yes, yeah.
the general three. But yeah, really appreciate the partnership. And
Yeah.
This was a fun one to do.
Absolutely. And even though this is done so well, ArcPrize will continue in 2025, and anybody can find out more at arcprize.org.
Great. Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Mark. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, you pause there.
Okay, so
For me, that was the bit that blew my mind on this day 12, was this guy. And I think it
Why?
leads us to understand.
Why did it blow your mind?
It blew my mind because what they're looking at is what are they doing in order to measure themselves about whether they're making progress in a way that they're using AI to improve the AI. And this was, it seems banal, but they've just stated to the world exactly what they're doing in order to try and improve. If we can understand why and what the implications of that are, then we can maintain ourselves ahead of the game on OpenAI.
Right. So really, it becomes okay. So one of the things we can do to prepare for O3 and beyond is to start using these intelligent models to analyze the benchmarks and try to work out or theorize what does the world look like, what new things can we do. Basically, if we can categorize the stacks and bucket them by like O1, O3, ON, and we can relate the stacks to the benchmark, not just the stacks directly, but the ability to solve a similar grade problem can be lumped into a bucket, then we can be poised and waiting for when these new models arrive so that we're not sitting here in a panic being like, O3 is coming, oh my god, I can't go outside. And it's like we take it in our stride and we're like, hurry up, please. We have a plan. We know what's happening.
Yes,
That's one
exactly.
option, right?
And what the guy said, going off to the left there, was that they are creating new benchmarks. They are a public interest company and will be publishing those benchmarks. And we need OpenAI are putting their vast weight behind improving specifically those benchmarks. So that's where it's going.
All right. Okay. Well, that's a great thing for us to watch, and we should. That's basically how we plan for the future. Now, this guy, this guy right here, Mr. Sam Altman. How much do you trust that as they get AGI, we're gonna get it too? And a better question is that even worth worrying about? And because what can we do about it? At any rate,
if Speakeasy, this one.
No. If that was a side comment of mine. It's of no great value to our progress. I was just simply asking for a quick little comment. I think it adds no value to dive deep into that one.
Okay, in that case, I'll give you a quick comment. I think if these guys actually get HGI, then it's game over, and we just wait for our universal income to be delivered somehow.
Or a painless death.
Right. Once you got AGI, then using AGI is very, very quickly going to get to the point where anyone doing anything is just going to be wiped out.
I think that's false.
For truly unique things.
I think that's false. I think that just like you can detect a nuclear explosion or a nuclear test anywhere on the planet, you will be able to detect AGI when it first appears by the heat spot it will leave from all of the electricity it's burning. And you will know it. You will know that someone has AGI or something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And so it won't be all over. Because it still can't, like if I've got a couple of guns and a bunker of food, AGI is not going to get me. You know what I mean? So there's still this whole, like we'll end up with a bunch of things that are so close to AGI. Someone will get there first, but then there'll be this weird sort of a car fight. I don't know if you've ever been in a fight in a car, but it's a weird kind of a restricted area to fight in, and you end up.
I haven't been.
Well, it's not quite like a bar fight because you can't move.
I've been a fight in a tent before, which was quite interesting.
Yeah, that is with a human. Or,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, it'll be like that. All I was getting at, I was just trying to get a gauge for your feeling, which you didn't answer for me, was your level of trust in this man.
I don't trust him whatsoever.
Oh, cold.
I
Okay.
think he,
Okay.
yeah, I have nothing
Okay.
more to add to that.
So
I trust
cool.
him as much as any other CEO of any other tech company. It's always going to maximize for their own benefit, and I think he wants to end up being the first trillionaire.
Is that what you think about Elon Musk?
Yes.
Okay.
Although,
So next up, we're going to talk about O3 Mini.
he's got a while to go. He's only at 400 billion.
Okay.
I mean, come on, man.
O3 Mini is a thing that we're really, really excited about, and Hongyu, who trained the model, will come out and join us.
Hey,
Hey,
how are you?
Hey.
Hi everyone, I'm Hongyu Ren. I'm an OpenAI researcher working on reasoning. So this September, we released O1 Mini, which is an efficient reasoning model in the O1 family that's really capable of math and coding, probably among the best in the world, given the low cost. So now, together with O3, I'm very happy to tell you more about O3 Mini, which is a brand new model in the O3 family that truly defines a new cost-efficient reasoning frontier.
It's incredible.
Yeah, though it's not available to our users today, we are opening access to the model to our safety and security researchers to test the model out. With the release of adaptive thinking time in the API a couple days ago, for O3 Mini, we'll support 3 different options: low, medium, and high reasoning effort. So the users can freely adjust the thinking time based on their different use cases. So for example, for some, we may want the model to think longer for more complicated problems and think shorter with like simpler ones. With that, I'm happy to show the first set of evals of O3 Mini. So on the left-hand side, we show the coding evals. So it's like code forces ELO, which measures how good a programmer is, and the higher is better. So as we can see on the plot, with more thinking time, O3 Mini is able to have like increasing ELO, outperforming O1 Mini, and with like median thinking time, it's able to measure even better than O1.
I'm not sure how much we're going to get from this section.
Okay.
Other than it's going to get cheaper, which we know is going to get cheaper.
Right,
And
but it's gonna get cheaper and faster for O3 Mini. But if you look at the cost of O3, like to get that little bit of extra, it's gonna cost you a lot more. Like if you O3 Mini High, it looks like around about maybe 10 times more cost for O3, which is, steep.
Yeah, but we're starting off from a very low base, and we've kind of selected our horse. That horse is going to get more expensive. The question is, can we use it?
Can we
to
stay on the
make
saddle?
More money.
Yeah. So we're gonna actually have to start charging a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that
you know-
marking up the token burn is an easy one, because we're like, well, who else values the intelligence of this grade? We've got some tools that let you harness it well and against your personal context. We'll run your queries for you, and we'll skim the token burn to fund our own development.
Yeah.
Right.
Cost is not something that we should be spending too much time thinking about, because
Yeah, I think it's false. It's like it doesn't even matter.
yeah, you could spend 200,000 a month on Google, and as long as you got 2020 out, you'd be happy. 2 million, 20 million, if it's the same differential.
Hey, that £20,000 grant from OpenAI is starting to sound a lot better now, eh?
Yeah.
Like it might be maybe good to try get it and then not use it until €3, like
But then burn through it in like 2 days.
yeah.
My point being, the thing that we should be concentrating on is margin, not the cost. They can charge as much as they want. It doesn't matter. If we are spending, 2 million a month, who cares? As long as our margin is positive.
Right. And we should also brace for like the likes of Google turning up with a reasoning model that can outshine, like, if we agree that AGI is coming, and I think that you and I both agree on that, how it gets here is super interesting, actually. And so, as Google, and like Do you think that OpenAI will be in the lead all the way up to AGI, or do you think that on occasion someone will overtake them momentarily, like a Google?
I think that there's going to be network effects there, that there's going to be a smaller and smaller number of leaders until one is dominant to the point where nobody else can touch them.
Right, but where's the government at? Because doesn't it start to look like national security if you're like, well, like, is AGI a national security threat? I'd say so.
Yes, it is, and I listen to a lot of podcasts from very high-level people who occasionally talk about AI, and the impression I get is they are nowhere in understanding exactly what's coming down the road.
The government?
Yeah, they are
No, man. They look at who made the internet. You know, like DARPA and those guys have always look at the size of Anduril.
Yes, but
Palantir.
by government, I'm talking about lawmakers.
No, I'm talking about the guys with the budget. The lawmakers are just the ones that rubber stamp the budget.
Oh, if you're talking about DARPA, yeah, these guys are all over it. If you're talking about
Right.
GCHQ, these guys.
So are we saying then that where we see O3 here on the model, are we saying that soon inside the military there will be higher scores emerging?
For sure. DARPA and the Chinese are the ones.
The Chinese, eh?
Yeah. Those are the.
How does that affect us?
Billions towards us.
It doesn't really affect us, right? Like whichever model turns up, we'll take the best one.
It affects us to know the fundamentals of using the best one, regardless of what the best one is.
Okay. All right. Do you want me to keep playing, or has this video run its course for you?
Yeah. After this, it gets a bit. Yeah.
Bit woolly. Okay. All right. So this
highlighted the bit.
Cost does matter, but not because we won't use it, but it matters because they can't really go beyond it. Like you could argue, like, okay, what if I go to 4? You know, like how much better does it get? And I feel like they're starting. It always feels a bit logarithmic in all the graphs I see. That like you can give it more compute effort, and then it only gets a little bit better. And so that's basically when a model architecture has run its course, and you need the next iteration of an architecture to do it. Because those graphs look like what? Remember those graphs I showed you of the different versions of Interbit? And so it's like awesome, ooh, plateau. Awesome, plateau. And you keep like overtaking the last plateau by doing an architecture shift, but then that always plateaus too. And so that's sort of how the
S curve. However, there's a danger here that we may be falling into in that, and this is why I was highlighting the interest in benchmarks. The S curve is defined by benchmarks.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
They're doing at the moment has already been surpassed.
Right. So benchmarks are the thing to watch, and if what we must do is relate them back to how we plan to apply AI. We must plan our future against the benchmarks, and we're like, when it hits this benchmark, this is the activity to do. But we're not even going to try that yet. We're just going to sit and wait, because there's no point building tools that can hit that band of problem just by refining the models we've already got. When the new model lands, it's so easy. So don't even go there. So most importantly, banding our stucks in a way that relates to benchmarks allows us to peacefully ignore some problems and be like, not even going to touch it. Don't waste the time. Focus on this one.
Bang on. Absolutely bang on.
Okay. All right. So what now, sir?
Well, there's only a couple more trivial things in the rest of this video, which probably we don't spend time on.
Okay. So next thing for us,
is we do need to deliver on our promise to the CRM guys, and so we were going to have a Q&A where you're going to be the key customer and describe it. And
Okay.
with this part of the transcript, I was going to create the definitions and the structs based on your idea of what it is that they want, which will allow us to refine it, and it will give you something meaty to build code from.
I would like to put forward a view that I don't think that's a good use of time anymore,
Oh, okay.
and I'd like to explain that because I think that's a shift in thinking and capability, if I may.
Mhm.
So the shift in capability is this newfound ability, thanks to O1 Pro, to be able to generate code where I've not been writing code, really. I've been talking about code. And the strategy I've found is the only thing that seems to win is this math process where you first define what you're doing as a math formula and then you derive everything from there. Now, with that ability comes also the power to reverse engineer a math formula from some code that was built the conventional way through toil, sweat, cursing, and caffeine. And then I can reverse it back into a math formula, patch the math formula to work how the math formula should work. I don't know what that says about my quality of manual code, but whatever. Then take the formula and then come back down the mountain using O1 to generate the code. Now, unproven as to, there may be some rocks and bumps and other issues along the way, but so far, it's not so good. It's fantastic. And so I don't, if you called me the key customer, like if I know enough about this customer that I can from my head recite and answer any question about what the system needs to do, I feel like I no longer need any help. And I don't mean to be rude, I mean to be practical.
Pause. So the process would be, presumably, to find something that's already been created which is a bit right, and create the maths assertions about how it works. Then from those math assertions, create the code which runs the CRM.
Correct.
If you can do that, then we could point this railgun at anything that anyone's ever tried to do before.
No. I knew you'd say that. And I know that because that was my first thought too. I was like, I'm going to shoot everything in the known universe. And then I realized that, first of all, it takes time still. Right? So I can't just, it still takes me time, much less time, but still time. Therefore, the number of shots is limited. Number two is, what other shots to take, given that this is a weird time where we have this skill, but soon everyone else will. And so during that time, ahead of the crowd, how should we best spend our time? And this is the number one reason why I'm panicking about our time, because each day that we spend, this is why I spent what should have been Christmas holidays, New Year's holidays, working with O1 from dawn till dusk, because every day in this weird little dead zone where we're just slightly ahead of the sonic boom in that uninterrupted airstream, we need to leverage that for all it's damn well worth, right? And so what are the shots that I should take? And I start to think it's building this context platform, the way to make your reasoning domains, the way to store your data, connect your data, the way to at least lay the stubs for ambient attribution. That seems like the place.
I agree, and that's what I've been sweating over for the last 6 months about how to structure this. This is where domains came from, where previously we were talking about naps.
Okay, hang on. Just hold on a second. Hold on a second. Forgive me, but it sounds like a classic intro to a line of speaking from you where you're recalling the past, but it's not helping me.
Excellent point, well made. Pause. What's the most appropriate division of work?
Good question. Perfect question. Please may I continue the explanation of the shift in thinking that I think will lead to an answer to the appropriate division. There's no argument that we have a railgun. We're the only ones with a railgun for a time, which makes it even more devastating, even though it's a crappy railgun. It's sort of like the one-eyed man in the world of the blind. But what to shoot is the thing. Now, we're shooting the CRM because, first of all, it's there, it's fuel. It helps me immensely to polish these techniques and understand them because it's a very humble thing to try and do. The CRM, it's typically, a great application of conventional software, but to do it in these new techniques allows me to really get a handle on what's a great little practical problem that's valued by others. So, with that background, I will proceed to explain what the strategy changes are after having reasoned them through O1 Pro. First of all, we have decided to abandon the broader platform because what had happened was code was so hard to make, and so we wanted to make this platform, but then we were like, well, the only way to be able to develop that platform is to make everyone use it so that we're not developing a bunch of conventional problems as well. That is old thinking that needs to go. Here we have a system where I can make conventional code relatively for free, and so it doesn't matter that it uses our platform or not. Okay, now, I really thought, sorry, I in my head I thought it was more profound than that, but that's really the gist of it. You and I were trying to collaborate on the CRM because we felt what I think our erroneous thinking was that we needed to understand the CRM together so that we could build the Dreamcatcher or get the process of how we would do this the next time, because we thought it was a two-person job. And now I'm saying actually it's not a one-person job, but it's not a two-person job. Like you could pass something over to me and I could make it and pass it back. And it's so cheap to pass back something wrong that it doesn't matter. So you could go and meet with a client, you figure out something, you come and talk to me, I make this thing, I pass it back, you're like, no, that's wrong and here's why. And then by the time you get up the next day, I've implemented those fixes and there you go. And so that level of turnaround time, given that it doesn't have to run on the Dreamcatcher platform itself, it's just running on whatever, doesn't answer the question of what is the best place to spend our time, but it does free us up from what isn't. And what isn't, I think, is you working on the CRM, because I feel like I've got it and I'm developing techniques while I do it that are of benefit to both of us. That's it.
I'm glad you said that. The previous way we were thinking about doing CRM was we would discuss it, take a narrative in, create definitions, all that kind of good stuff. I think actually where I really need to be spending my time on is in that structuring of knowledge, whether it be these assertions or facts that we were talking about, the longitudinal cuts, the vertical decisions. The commander is part of that. Now, the commander is, I was saying at the top of the call, probably one, maybe 2 days away from being able to give us a very strong point. Possibly, my next priority really should be given that our discussion on O3 is to get Overwatch up, which will require tools from you, but you're saying that you can create tools almost for free.
Oh, right. So really the best use of our combined time is getting up the pillars of everything we've spoken about, where you're able to give me a backlog of things that I need to do, such as Overwatch and some of the surface tools, those types of things, right?
Yes, and I would caveat that slightly in that the CRM is really useful because it will humble us against whatever stage we're at. It will humble us because it's not going to work first time.
That's
Not
correct.
The code, the process.
The process, yeah. The difference that I'm repeating in a different way, because it's very hard as humans to shift our thinking from things that we thought were just brute fact for so long. Like, code is hard. Fact. Not fact. Like, 2025, no longer true. Okay.
In fact, interesting enough, I think I could probably write the CRM from scratch, given these tools. It would take me maybe 2x the time that you put in.
That's rude.
But it's code is a solved problem.
Okay. 1 second. The angle that I was about to repeat, the shift of thinking cry that I'm making, is that you said you thought the CRM was valuable for the process that it gives us. We had previously designed the CRM to run on the code that we were going to run the Dreamcatcher on, and that is no longer valuable. And so we must make sure that we have disconnected these two projects, the Dreamcatcher and the CRM, and that we're only interested in the process of the CRM and not the substance of the CRM, which we previously considered critical.
Yes, I agree. And the process of the CRM initially is understanding what a CRM is in this context, and then giving the AI enough meat and definitions and knowledge structure for it to produce the code, and then to get feedback.
That's false.
You think? How?
Let me think. There's no need for the AI to understand what a CRM is, because we're building it up as modules. And one of the most interesting things about the AI models right now is that they come with no memory built in. You know, each conversation, you're responsible as a developer for managing the memory, managing the chat history. And it just takes, you know, whatever you said the history was as that's the history. Tell me why you see any advantage in the AI understanding what a CRM is and what benefit we could possibly get from it.
Because of the interface between the AI and the humans. The AI will produce a CRM if we ask it to, as you know. The guys who are paying for the CRM might have a completely different idea or nuances that it will not understand.
I see the folly. You are still thinking that the CRM is to be delivered as an AI enhanced interface. Is that right?
Yes.
Ha. Great. So that's not happening.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
Because first of all, they didn't ask for that. Okay, we tried to push it on them because we were like, well, we don't want to develop software that's not an AI-based interface because that's what we're trying to develop, and so we need to recoup the costs of building this thing by also making you use it. And yes, we'll learn from them and all that, but the version that I'm planning now, the version we spoke about, has got no AI in the interface.
Oh,
right?
Pause.
Big shift.
Thank you for bringing me up to date with your thinking. I was maintaining my thought where we would have AI and generate.
Yep. So what is the
stux
consequence
and
of
all
that for you after you think for a bit?
Consequence of that is if we're effectively turning it into an AI-powered code studio that produces code and not AI, then it seems much simpler. It's like, here's a bunch of code.
Oh, wait, that's not right either.
Well, that's what you just said.
It is no, yeah, I know, but it's not quite right. The first versions, the read-only version and the write version, are coming out as no AI because they just don't need it for those very crude things. It's going to be just the widgets talking to the database, because that's, the AI is really there to do fuzzy and advanced things, but a lot of the mundane day-to-day is going to be served by the widgets anyway, and the AI was just going to navigate for you and help out a little bit for you, but those basal functions are just widgets.
Can I just check what's in your head at the moment about that first read-only version?
Yeah.
Because there's money on the table, which would be nice. Are we talking about something like the Palantir, the box thing where they're interacting in terms of, Agnes who turns up at the office and starts to do invoices?
No, I was just going to present the state board for the first version. I want to present the 3-box to them, I do, but at this stage, like the most minimum version, because we agreed that that's what we should do, the effort required to make the widget is enough to deliver value to the customer. If just the widget that lets you browse your customers, view your customers, and edit your customers, if just that was provided, that's still value. And so the state board hard coded to that with no AI at all is version 0.
And version 1 would be presumably
shift to 3-box.
Us almost in the background talking to the AI about how to improve beyond that shitty version 0, read only, given a code base.
Permission to speak freely.
Yeah, is this the speakeasy?
Yeah,
Okay, go for
yeah.
it.
I can no longer maintain a formal composure because getting to 3box, like getting the AI piece working, is actually quite a bit of complication. And perhaps an error in our thinking is that I'd been trying to make it work like how we want the surface of our platform to work to save the code. But maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe there's a version of the CRM that better fits the customer's need that doesn't look exactly like a version of the surface. Now, the surface could be used to drive the CRM and interact with the CRM, just like a CLI could be used to interact with our system as a whole, but that doesn't mean that the CLI is the interface that the customer wants to see. And so I think I need to decouple the cost in our head of doing a standalone interface versus just the surface, because a standalone interface doesn't matter diddly squat anymore. And it used to, and I think that's frustrating our thinking because we are afraid of these things because of how much heartache and money and sweat it's cost in the past. And I'm saying that that's actually gone, and so we can deliver these very lightweight pieces on our way to our surface, but then we can also not deliver the surface to every customer too. And so if I may, with one last breath, add that the goal with the customers, I was going to get this, just the widget, hard-coded state board, no AI, just the widget. They're showing their data, and then we figure out, okay, what do you guys want next? Because, this costs this and this costs that, and this is, what it costs to us in terms of our opportunity cost, but we could be working on something else. If you come in and you have it be this AI way, then that's good for us because we use that elsewhere, and all those kinds of discussions come after.
Pause. So what we're saying is being delivered for V0 is traditional code.
Yeah.
And in the background, we are using AI to be ludicrously faster than a coding house.
Correct. And better.
And therefore, it follows that I should be thinking about how to create the coding house such that someone else comes along and wants an additional piece of code.
No, absolutely not.
Bang.
Absolutely not. What you should be doing, if I may be so bold, is you should be figuring out how to use the coding house to build whatever it is you want.
That's too vague.
No, it's not. It's a shift in mentality. You were trying to figure out how to manage the coding house, and I'm saying you need to shift to try to use the coding house. That's different.
Yes, no, it's too vague because you missed out to do X.
That's your problem.
For example, we've got a hopper of a whole bunch of people crying out for AI-enabled XXX, from insurance through to mortgages and private equity.
None of those things matter.
So, by you saying that I should be using what we've got at the moment in order to what?
You should be figuring out how to use the coding house that we have now in order to make a general solution to solve all of those problems for all of the point solutions that are coming at you, from private equity to insurance firms to fashion houses to all that. We need this general platform that can deliver all those things and keep evolving with them. The way to get sucked over the falls and rammed in the reef and end up eating your own board when you're trying to ride this wave is to take any time to deliver point solutions, except for the first one or two where you're simply learning. The winners are delivering platforms that point solutions are iterated upon at a rate far exceeding the delivery of any single point solution, so that people stay with you as the swell gets bigger and bigger and the wave speed, the crest gets higher and higher. That's what you need to do.
Okay, in order to do that, then you're asserting that you can create code at a hugely accelerated rate.
Not a limitless.
That,
Yep.
not
Sorry.
unlimited,
I'm
but
sorry.
accelerated. I'm asserting that in order to ride the wave and stay on top of it, what we need is a knowledge structure that is robust and is very friendly, not just for O1 but O3, and that we can see what's coming through, and ideally is independent of any model.
Yeah, we need the context, the data structure, the context structure of our platform.
Right, because you could always inject, if someone asked for an AI CRM, that's just a bunch of another code, because it's just going to go straight to the model, and the model is going to do what it does.
Yeah, and so each of those point solutions is valuable. Like an AI powered CRM that can adapt to you on the fly and all that. That's very valuable. Don't get me wrong, but that's not the thing to hit with the railgun. The thing to hit is what we just discussed, because that enables you to build not just the CRM, but the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. It is what powers everything.
Well, I'm very content with that, because that's what I spent most of my time thinking about when we were talking about when I asked for the
Right.
concat and context
Right.
versus new information, all that kind of thing.
So I have to go. I'm sorry. We're past my
Oh yeah,
I'm
you're
about to turn
11
into a
11 minutes.
pumpkin.
You're
Yeah.
11 minutes past.
So the last thing I want to tack on the recording, and I'll give you a chance to end as well. You should be telling me what tools you need to make that context platform. I have an idea in my head of what some of them are. It's fuzzy, but you should also tell me ones that you want, and preferably the ones that overlap, which are ones that I've already thought about and know how to make, and ones that you want. Those are the ones that will get delivered first, and we just go from there. I cannot think of a better thing to spend our time on.
From my side, it remains the things, and this is until we get an API for Pro, nap to nap.
Nap to nap. You were gonna say that, but okay. And
It's
there's also
It's going to be a small list. It's going to be a small
okay.
list.
All right. Well, make the list for me, please. Make it in stacks. Put those stacks at the top. If it's a small list, it should take no time.
Yeah, but some of it is we have to wait for the big guys to actually, do it.
Doesn't matter.
But-
Let's at least declare it. I want to point out that O1 has medium-high, low, medium-high reasoning in the API, and O1 versus O1 Pro, for a lot of tasks, it's probably okay. And so it would behoove us to make a platform that was all ready to do these things just using O1, because let's not forget that O1, independent of O1 Pro, O1 is pretty baller too. O1 on high
Yeah.
reasoning is really good. So let's not forget that. And so if we had that set up to go, then as soon as the O1 Pro API comes out, we plug it in, and then when O3 Mini lands and all that, and then we're good to go. So actually, the best way to prepare for O3 is to develop the tooling for our own platform that uses the API of O3 so that we can do things to enhance the context management, the knowledge management, all these requests that are going to come in. People are like, I want this, I want that, and then they want to talk to us about it, and then we want to record it and strip it out and break it down, and then instead of coming back with a report that says, instead of having a report that just says, look, you wanted this, we're actually able to come back with a working demo, and we're like, well, actually, first of all, what you wanted is very similar to the CRM that we built because it's AI, it adapts, so here you go. But second of all, you wanted some individual bits that are unique, and so here's a widget that plugs into that. And so we're able to make this general platform that covers 80% of what the base layer of what anyone's asking for an AI system are anyway. We are able to, using this new Codehouse ability, generate the little missing 15%, and then the last 5% is the magic of Stux, where inbuilt into all of our systems will be this feedback loop where they can ask for help, and then it triggers off.
Okay, good. I will note that I might come to rue this comment, but the list of tools needed is probably going to be embarrassingly small.
Make it then. Make it, and don't talk to me until you got it. Like, if it's that small and that easy and that right there, make it.
I will do it by tomorrow morning and or tomorrow evening.
Okay.
I'll not fill, because you got to go. I will not fill the recording up because I could actually state it now, but I will write it down.
State it.
It is the ability of having a system prompt that self-selects its model, the most appropriate model, and can call utilities, and then bring back the results of those utilities
You mean
provide.
Tools?
Tools, yep. And is self-aware enough to select the most parsimonious way of doing that. Once you've got that, what we're doing is basically plugging in any model into a very, very standard piece of tooling. Now, much bigger task is how do you select the context about what you're talking about at any one time? So I can get you a very short list of tools, but what we're talking about in terms of domains, definitions, these moats, perhaps that's a thing, and so on, probably will take time to figure out. But the actual interface is as simple as an electric plug. It's pretty damn simple. It's like get a NAP to self-select its model, read a system prompt, call tools, and call other NAPs.
Is that it?
Pretty much. Because from that, I can say things like, I would like to have a YouTube transcriber in an app that other NAPs can call. Same structure. That architecture works again and again and again, which is why I've been banging on about the whole NAP to NAP thing. Things, say the concat tool, let's put it in an app, and so the one NAP can know when it needs to concat, and I don't need to tell it, and it constructs it. There's many ways to make it match, but that really is the tool. I'll write this down and get you something specific.
In a Stux.
If you solve that, then all it is me trying to use the AI to do something it can't do, and then it generates a description of that over to you to create the code, and then boom, the tool turns up, and tomorrow morning it can do that. It
That's
is that
fun.
simple.
That is very fun. So now my jobs come in from an AI, then I use the AI to fulfill the jobs, all the while thinking about how I can replace myself even further so that I didn't have to be bothered in the first place, but accepting with gratitude my current predicament just the same, being superior to the predicament of my entire career.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that described as the electrical plug. The thing that is much harder is what's the generation network behind that.
The power station, the
Yeah.
wars you had to wage to get cheap gas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Should we do fracking? How do we transport? How do we wind energy? What
The
happens if wind stops?
geoengineering to deal with the climate change, all that, but you just want a
Yeah.
plug that works.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll stop it right there.
Nice one.